New Super Mario Bros. We Know Bricks. New Super Mario Bros. You Know Bricks. New Super Luigi You Know Bricks. We've thus far attempted to beat every home console New Super Mario Bros. Game without touching any brick blocks. But let's not forget that this offshoot of the Mario series got its start on handhelds. Today we investigate the first game in hopes of discovering the following. Is it possible to beat New Super Mario Bros. Without touching a single brick block? Now, just to be clear, today we are only seeking to avoid one specific type of block. Those would be the ones made of bricks. All the rest of the block-like structures are perfectly fine to touch. If we do end up touching a brick block, death is the only option. Before we start playing, there is one edge case I would like to address. That edge case would be invisible blocks. I've come to the determination, in large part through the representation in games like Super Mario Maker, that they are invisible question mark blocks. And since question mark blocks are legal for us to touch, that means invisible blocks are as well. Alright then, let's now jump into a new adventure. We start off this Mario game in the same way we start most 2D Mario games, by playing 1-1. In true 1-1 fashion, this level is primarily comprised of grassy ground with bricks floating above. This setup does lead this level to have loads of bricks in it, but doesn't necessarily cause the level to be all too difficult, as you can just walk underneath most of them. The enemies down there do make that more difficult, but if you have some patience, it's not much more difficult. With that level bested, it's time we advance to 1-2.
Here I go!
What?! Since when is this how Mario levels start? Mandatory ground pound straight into bricks? It's as if the developers are spiting me specifically from all the way back in 2006. So yeah, when you play this level, Mario automatically starts it by ground pounding, which unavoidably leads to him touching these bricks. I can't believe it, it's only level 2 and the challenge may already be failed. And in what amounts to little more than a cutscene too. Is there really nothing we can do? Well, there might be a very sophisticated technique we can use to avert this unfortunate fate. Here's how it works. We select the level, and then start mashing literally all the buttons. Somehow, this actually works. Or you could just press up on the D-pad to cancel the ground pound like a civilized person. That works too. Anyway, this leads to us falling through the shaft normally, instead of ground pounding straight to our doom. This leaves us in a position where we can wall jump off the sides of the shaft, which is certainly better than the ground pound, but will not lead to our success in and of itself. We still need to devise a way to press forward through the level without touching those bricks down there. My first instinct was to try sliding against the right wall. No luck. How about wall jumping off the left wall? Nope. Let's try wall jumping off the right wall while holding right the whole time. That's close. Did we get by? Let's try slowing it down. I'm still not sure. Let's zoom in. A bit more. Just a touch more. Okay. I'm pretty sure there isn't any brick contact here. That means we can move on with our life and see the rest of this level. So, how is the rest of the level? There are tons of bricks in this level. Luckily, most of the bricks are overhead and can be avoided with patience and caution. Eventually we come to this structure, which at first glance seems like a huge obstacle, but is overcome fairly simply with just a green shell. After that obstacle, there are no more major barriers between us and the secret exit, which leads us straight to one tower. The main body of this level has barely any bricks in it. It does, however, have a secret exit that can give us access to a cannon that would take us all the way to World 5. Unfortunately, the path to that secret exit is blocked by what are nearly the only bricks in the whole level. Oh well, I guess we'll just have to continue through World 1 like normal. 1-4 starts out quite tricky, but is still quite possible, though eventually we must face this obstacle. When it comes to clearing it, even if you manage to pull off the difficult task of landing on this 1 block wide non-brick on a jump which places Mario out of frame for most of it, I'm not entirely convinced you're left in a position that allows you to garner enough momentum to get to the next safe haven anyway. If we can't make this jump, then we will be forced to touch a brick. There may be something we can try though. Let's try a power-up. They can be quite useful, and some of them, like the propeller mushroom and super acorn, are great at increasing our mobility. Unfortunately, those two power-ups have not been invented yet. The closest we have to that in this game is the mini mushroom. This may be the most useful power-up for us in this game. That usefulness comes in two forms. Firstly is the simple fact that the mini mushroom makes us mini. That gives us a smaller hitbox, which makes it easier to dodge bricks. Secondly, and more immediately, the mini mushroom gives us a much floatier jump that lets us jump further, which is beneficial for obvious reasons. Using the mini mushroom, we are able to clear this whole structure in one grand leap, jumping all the way from this Koopa. We then must act quickly and avoid getting hit by a Goomba. After clearing that jump, I would rather not have to do it again, so let's be very cautious throughout the rest of this level, which, from this point forward, doesn't have many difficult bricks. 1-5, a much more mushroom-focused level, is a fun, light, minimally difficult level. Until we get to these brick settings. You can't quite jump over them. You also can't go under them, because an attempt to do that leads to us bouncing onto these mushrooms underneath the bricks, which of course inevitably leads to us touching some of the bricks. This obstacle once again gives the mini mushroom a chance to shine, with its signature floaty jumps. Luckily that is the last obstacle in this level, so now we're on to one castle, which barely has any bricks in it. That means we can move on to World 2, which starts out pretty easily. 2-1 has a few bricks a bit above the ground. They don't give us too much trouble. 2-2 is a bit more difficult. There are a few instances of bricks with precise jumps to get past. Midway through the level, we come across this brick structure, which I don't see an obvious way to jump past. Good thing jumping isn't our only option. This is a level patrolled by a Lakitu, which happens to own a cloud, which we can commandeer with the help of our friendly Koopa. Soon after our flight over that last obstacle, we come across these bricks. The way I see it, there are two main ways to approach them. Either we try to leap over and then ground pound to cancel our momentum, or we try to thread the needle as Small Mario. I chose to go with the latter approach, which then led to a fairly easy conclusion to this level. 2-3 has very few bricks in it, so it's a very little issue to us. One thing worth noting, however, is that we do want to take the secret exit, which a mini mushroom helps us do. That brings us to 2A, which features these spin blocks, which are pretty fun, and occasionally launch us directly into bricks. We'll just run across the surface of the water instead. We also do a nice little wall jump maneuver to get to the secret exit, which allows us to use the World 5 cannon. The mini mushroom, which we have anyway because of the last level, is certainly useful for 5-1, on account of letting us stand on the deep snow without issues, and as such contributes to a relatively easy time getting through the level. 5-2 has a great deal of blocks, which are mostly overhead and not too hard for us to get around. This particular section looks scary, but if you have a mini mushroom, getting by it is as simple as holding down run. We then double back to enter the pipe and get the secret exit, which lets us bypass the World 5 tower. As such, our next level is 5-3, which is very slippery, features these weird snail unicorns, and is quite easy if you just take a leap of faith from here with the mini mushroom. 5 Ghost House is another level in which we would like to take the secret exit. To get to this exit, you'll want to hit an invisible question mark block that is suspended over a platform of bricks. Good thing we can still hit it off of a wall jump while using a mini mushroom. That secret exit grants us access to a cannon that shoots us all the way to World 8. 8-1 isn't super brick heavy. That being said, I made it way harder on myself than necessary by trying to go full sprint. Once I slowed down, it wasn't of much difficulty. 8-2 brings us to this room, which certainly doesn't look like it'll be a good time for a brickophobe like us. We can bypass it by simply going through a small pipe instead of a big pipe though, which makes this level overall quite trivial. 8 Tower has like 2 pairs of bricks in the whole level, and neither of them are difficult to avoid. 8-3 has considerably more bricks than the tower. Luckily, this level is a water level. Yes, I know, people generally hate water levels, but the fact of the matter is that in this game, water gives us the most freedom with our mobility, given the whole lessened impact of gravity thing. Point being, despite the larger quantity of bricks, and an eel-enforced time limit, H2O makes it a relatively easy level. 8-4 doesn't have the most difficult arrangement of bricks. Theoretically, this level shouldn't be too hard. If it wasn't for these guys, that is. The most annoying thing about these spiders is just the fact that their spawn points are relative to Mario, which means it's always a dynamic challenge. A dynamic challenge that, if we want to beat this game, we're going to have to overcome.
So nice.
Well, we did it. As it turns out, the fire flower is still pretty good. We'll certainly need to remember not to get too tunnel visioned by the mini mushroom in future levels. In 8 Castle, we don't even bother with the mini mushroom as it's a fairly easy level from a bricks perspective. That is very far from requiring the use of any mini mushroom features. And with 8 Castle cleared, we have a whole other half of a world to get through. Alright, that second half gives us an easy start with 8-5, which offers us no major obstacles. We then keep the ball rolling with 8-6 being similarly painless. 8-7 then shakes things up by starting like this. Not to worry, this speed bump is well within the mini mushroom's ability to overcome. Later on in the level, there are a couple places of note, such as this fire bro area, which I got past by killing the first and running under the bricks and second one. There's also this sledge bro, whose domain can be navigated by just waiting him out, then taking a large leap. Our next stop is 8-8, which is one of these raining meteor levels that the new Super Mario Bros. Games are so fond of. With it belonging to that genre of level, there are of course tropes that it is obliged and does in fact adhere to. The one that gives us particular trouble is the destructible blocks overhead, which of course decided to be bricks. Perhaps those two elements in isolation wouldn't be all too difficult. Unfortunately, they aren't in isolation. They have one more annoying roommate in this level. Cabals. The mere fact that they're enemies under bricks is annoying enough. But these guys have the added trait that if you try dispatching them with a fire flower, which would typically be a pretty good solution to this sort of problem, instead of just dying, they home in on you and then explode. In the end though, with a combination of fire flower patience and a few instances of just running for victory, we do eventually beat the level. Next is a tower, which should be easy since there are barely any bricks here. That being said, for some reason the snake block gave me some real trouble. Regardless, it's certainly possible. Which brings us to the final level. Bowser's Castle. This first room goes by without incident. Then we arrive in this chamber, in which we must flip the room over by hitting a switch that you get from hitting a brick block. And this is only the first of 3 instances in this level where you have to do that. Which of course leads to 3 necessary brick touches. The one silver lining here is while there are quite a few other bricks in this level that are quite tricky to maneuver around, all those other bricks with enough skill and a bit of mini mushroom magic can be avoided. Still, that doesn't change the fact that today we have found out that it is not possible to beat New Super Mario Bros. Without touching a single brick block. Certainly not the outcome I was hoping for today. But you know what would make it a bit better? Some likes, comments, and subscriptions. I think those would help add a bit of a silver lining here. I might also recommend that you check out some of my other No Bricks Challenge videos. But anyways guys, until next time, I've been CMeeCraft, very motivated to bring down the hammer on the next challenge. Goodbye.